Rise, O shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has dawned upon you. For look, darkness covers the earth, and thick mist the peoples. But nations shall walk by your light, and kings by your dawning radiance. Rise, O shine, for your light has come. In 1811, a young Anglican priest and future bishop of Calcutta wrote a hymn for the Christian season of Epiphany. The season of Epiphany celebrates the star that guided the wise ones to Jesus. Epiphany. My friend and fellow teacher defined Epiphany as a flash of understanding in a prepared mind. We prepare our minds by Christian disciplines such as study, prayer, simplicity, and worship. It's God's work to send the flash of understanding. My friend said we should pray and pray and pray some more for Epiphany. Son of the 19th century, Bishop Reginald Heber is known to this day for his tireless labor, his enthusiasm, his administrative ability, his skilled and gracious words, his care for the poor and sick. Rise, O shine, for your light has come. In 2020, on dark and mist-shrouded planet Earth, we need to persevere in our own tireless labor, our enthusiasm, our able handling of what is ours to do, our gracious words, our desire to care for ourselves and others. To help us, we have the light of words like these, written long ago for a season of Epiphany. By 1835, Bishop Heber's English words had made it to America and were being sung to a haunting American melody in a voice-only way of congregational singing, rising in Appalachia and the South.
Hail the blessed morn, see the great mediator, down from the regions of glory descend. Shepherds go worship the babe in the manger, lo, for his guard the bright angels attend. Brightest and best of the sons of the morning, dawn on our darkness and lend us thine aid. Star in these the horizon adorning, guide where our infant Redeemer was laid. Cold on his cradle the dewdrops are shining, low lies his bed with the beasts of the stall. Angels adore him in slumbers reclining, wise men and shepherds before him do fall. Brightest and best of the sons of the morning, dawn on our darkness and lend us thine aid. Star in these the horizon adorning, guide where our infant Redeemer was laid. Say, shall we yield him in costly devotion, odors of Eden and offerings divine, gems from the mountain and pearls from the ocean, myrrh from the forest and gold from the mine. Brightest and best of the sons of the morning, brightest and best of the sons of the morning, dawn on our darkness and lend us thy name. Star in the east, the horizon adorning, guide where our infant Redeemer was laid.
Last week we heard how 3 angels paid a visit to Abraham and Sarah, where they were camped in tents, them and their tribe, under the oaks of Mamre, and how the Lord promised that Sarah at last, at age 90, would bear a son to Abraham. Here's what happened next. And the Lord singled out Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah as he had spoken. And Sarah conceived and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the set time that God had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son who was born to him, whom Sarah bore him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised Isaac his son when he was 8 days old, as God had charged him. And Abraham was 100 years old when Isaac his son was born to him. And Sarah said, Laughter has God made me. Whoever hears will laugh with me. And she said, Who would have uttered to Abraham, Sarah is suckling sons? For I have borne a son in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on the day Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, laughing. And she said to Abraham, Drive out this slave girl and her son, for the slave girl's son shall not inherit with my son, with Isaac. And the thing seemed evil in Abraham's eyes because of his son. And God said to Abraham, Let it not seem evil in your eyes on account of the lad and on account of your slave girl. Whatever Sarah says to you, listen to her voice. For through Isaac shall your seed be acclaimed. But the slave girl's son too I will make a nation, for he is your seed. And Abraham rose early in the morning, and took bread and a skin of water, and gave them to Hagar, placing them on her shoulder. And he gave her the child, and sent her away, and she went wandering through the wilderness of Beersheba. And when the water in the skin was gone, she flung the child under one of the bushes, and went off and sat down at a distance, a bow shot away. For she thought, Let me not see when the child dies. And she sat at a distance and raised her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the lad. And God's messenger called out from the heavens and said to her, What troubles you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the lad's voice where he is. Rise, lift up the lad, and hold him by the hand, for a great nation will I make him. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the skin with water, and gave to the lad to drink. And God was with the lad, and he grew up, and dwelled in the wilderness, and he became a seasoned bowman. And he dwelled in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took him a wife from the land of Egypt. Quite a story, yes? The genius of the Hebrew storytellers is that they leave out details we moderns are used to hearing, and they seldom tie up neat platitudes and sound bites for us. They make us imagine, and they make us think about the bigger picture. So one may speak of saintly Sarah or obedient Hagar. But there was more to these two than meets the eye. They were very human women, with the usual desires and secrets and craftiness and resentments. And there was 100-year-old Abraham in the middle. He loved Sarah, his legal wife. He loved Hagar, who, let us remember, Sarah put into his bed. He loved his son with Hagar, teenaged Ishmael. He loved his son with Sarah, little Isaac. In the end, Sarah used the full weight of her status and power as legal wife to get rid of the competition. Let us remember that and have mercy on all of them. And let us commend Hagar for making the best of a bad lot and raising a responsible citizen and finding him a nice young woman to marry. Remember how I asked you to question the text as to how it might connect to your own life? Well, here's something interesting that happened to me as I thought about the story. Listen. Our lesson for today happened long ago when one woman owned another and trouble overflowed. Abe was chieftain of a tribe, and Sarah shared his power. She was Middle Eastern, beautiful as a flower. Hagar, too, was beautiful, a dark Egyptian maid, a slave by circumstance. She did as Sarah bade. Their lives were locked together when Hagar became a mother. Abe loved them both, but he could see that, they hated each other. Uneasy contract bound them all, a covenant God decreed. Sarah held the high ground, but Hagar had Abraham's seed. Then Sarah had a son at last, but the trouble only grew. Now inheritance was at stake, the older son or the new. Now Hagar's name means stranger, and Sarah's great mother is queen. The queen showed the stranger the door and thought she had wiped the slate clean. Well, it's never quite as clean as that. The power struggle goes on, and putting the stranger in her place doesn't mean that you have won. One nation under God, but the bitter seed, 400 years of slavery. We're all enslaved, indeed. He must have felt my fear, my computer assembling clues, for he was tall and muscular and ebony of hue. Uneasy contract still in place. A man too close in line. Don't worry, little lady. You're safe. It's going to be fine. A happening half remembered as I studied two women's strife and pondered the uneasy contract between slave and legal wife. Something half remembered, something on the shelf whispered my name and said I must read this to help myself. He lived in Carolina when our tie with England was broken. A patriot, highly respected, hard-working, and quick-spoken. His first wife's name was Sarah. 12 children she bore. 6 lived. She died while the war was raging. He buried her and grieved. On he fought for the cause, wounded while leading his men. Then he limped on his thigh worked hard all his days to provide for his kith and kin. He breathed his last at 90, having led an exemplary life. He left 14 living children and a grieving second wife. To bury the colonel and pay out his estate, certain items had to be sold. His wagon, some timber, and even his still. And one other thing must be told. One Negro man named Isaac was also sold that day, leaving Jacob and Eve to the colonel's wife to help her the rest of her way. Of my forebears owning others, I think that was the end. The children dispersed and worked their way with little they had to fend. Who knows what happened to Isaac? Was he in a store one night, and I in the line of the colonel, free except for my fright? Some say it's over and done, that people were property. Some would say it's important to know the whole truth. I would say that I agree.